What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to today's interview of a Dream Firm leader. My name is Tyler S. Clark, co-founder of Dream Firms, where we create generational wealth and impact for accounting professionals. And what I'd like to do with you is introduce to you the CPA who discovered the marketing skills hidden inside of her to achieve a personal record in sales to grow her firm. More about that in just a little bit. These numbers are going to blow your mind. An individual who's bringing to you a whole new opportunity that lets you shine with high value clients without lifting a finger while getting paid big time. A woman so dynamic, she put together a killer webinar for her niche in less than 2 weeks that's earning glowing 5-star reviews. It's time for you to embrace the ever-changing landscape of the accounting world with a true professional that's giving you and your clients a personal touch that can't be touched. The leader of the marketing of cost seg services to small and mid-sized leaders of their accounting firms who are serious about making the transition to advisory services. A mother, a road warrior, a marketer, and a CPA, the one, the only, Dawn Polin. Dawn, it's a pleasure to have you with us. How are you doing today?
Great. Thank you so much, Tyler. I don't think I could beat that introduction ever.
Well, we take our relationships with our clients very seriously, just as I know you do. We're super excited to have you with us, and I think that shined through in the introduction. So let's go ahead and jump in. What I'd like to do is I'd like to just make sure that our audience has, again, that historical understanding of Dawn's work history, how she got started in accounting at large, and we'll go from there.
Perfect. So I got started like so many of you. I came out of school as an accountant and started working for public accounting firms. I started out with Arthur Andersen years ago, actually doing their software development for tax, did tax compliance for years and years, public companies, private companies. Then eventually down the road, I was working at a medium-sized CPA firm, and I got into the specialty tax practice. And that's where I learned cost segregation. I ran their cost segregation practice for about 6 years. So from there, I decided, as many of you know, when you're in a public accounting firm, when you go to partner, you're in sales. So I'm now faced with being somebody who's very good at the numbers and the details and the heads down, and I've got to move into sales. And if I've got to do that, why not do that on my own? And so that's where I was at. And I think it's scary, but I'm so happy I did it.
That's amazing. And I'd like to take a second here to dive a little bit deeper into your track to partnership, and also why the cost seg division. I mean, there's so many divisions in some of these mid to large size firms. What really called to you in that sector? What did you find the work particularly engaging? Was it more of like there was a void that needed to be filled with a high quality individual? What led to that?
Well, I mean, honestly, just personal, I think that inherently most people are pleasers. You want to be liked. When I came out of school, I'll tell you, I did an audit internship and I hated it because nobody likes the auditor. And I said, well, I'm going into tax. I don't want to be the one nobody likes. And when I got into specialty tax, I realized people love you because you just saved them money. I had people calling me on the phone. Oh my gosh, I bought a new car. I just saved so much money, or I was invested in another deal. And I thought, I am killing myself doing returns that are hard and complicated, and nobody appreciates it. Everybody just thinks this is a commodity. They have to pay money to have their tax return done just because they have to, and you're not really adding value. So I just loved the fact that now I was on the side of the fence where I was actually helping people. I mean, I have often thought, just to be perfectly honest, that, heart surgeons, they're helping people. As a tax accountant, I'm just doing what the government wants me to do and making sure people aren't getting in jail. And so I love to just be on the other side of that. That's why once I got into specialty tax, I thought I'm never going back to compliance.
Now, there might be a word, and I'm not too sure what that word might be that represents what you're doing as opposed to being reactive. What's the word, Dawn, that I'm looking for here? It's
proactive.
Proactive. There it is. Exactly. Oh. So we're looking forward with our clients. They're coming to you with a specific problem, and you're ultimately able to take your expertise, as I imagine the vast majority of the people on this call have, and we're getting thank you cards. We're getting people to reinvest into things that they really appreciate, because we're not just filling in the numbers on the boxes and just kind of being in that commodity market. We're bringing a whole new edge to the tax side of things here. Let's go ahead and get a little deeper into that, because again, I don't want to just talk really, like high level. I want to get into some of the nuanced approaches to this. So specifically, the service that you are primarily rendering, again, is cost segregation. And assume I know nothing about that, Dawn, right? Assume that the audience, even though I'm sure a couple of them have a good understanding, what's a good way to explain what the service is and why it matters to the client?
Okay, so cost segregation, essentially, every business that owns real estate has to capitalize and depreciate that. Cost segregation allows you, in an IRS sanctioned method, to move a portion of that property to essentially personal property, shorter lives. And so you can depreciate it right now with the bonus rules immediately. It's a time value of money concept, because you are shifting a deduction that you had from the back years to the forward years. It's a cash flow planning tool. So this is where the planning comes in. So what happens is, if you have an income event now where you're pushed into higher tax brackets, maybe you want that deduction now versus later. And everybody knows that if you wait 30, 40 years for the deduction, it's really not worth anything as compared to what it is now. So it's really all about planning. It's all about how your business, we work in tandem with the client CPAs, and really what's going to benefit the client best. And it may not be doing a study now. The great thing is you can do it later. You can have a building, and you can do it in 2 years. So if you say, hey, I'm in a loss right now, I have an income event coming up in 2 years, let's do it in 2 years. That is fine. It's just a useful tool that you can invoke when it's needed.
This is amazing. And I want to pull just another common thought that you get seen tossed around in sort of the wealth community. And I think it's something like 90% of all millionaires own real estate, something like that. Or it's like some crazy percentage of people who obtain wealth over the course of their life are somehow invested in real estate in one form or another. And what I find when I'm talking with my clients, even in the very beginning stages, say, well, tell me about your dream client, right? Like, what are we really getting here? I've never heard someone say, I really want to work with a poor person who can't pay me money, right? Like, and that's not to say, hey, we're bashing on people less fortunate. But when you're in the professional services space, you want to work with professionals who have upwards trajectory, upwards mobility, and typically that aligns with people who are invested in real estate. And so when you have this, I'll call it an ace in your back pocket, to be honest, this thing that not a lot of people are talking about, but can be a tremendous selling benefit, can be a tremendous marketing benefit that we can put out into the sphere that high value buyers will say, wait a minute, why hasn't my accounting firm brought this to my attention? And now we've got a very clear differentiation between you and everyone else. And I find that tends to be one of the things that's really hard for a lot of firms to figure out that piece. Like, how am I different? Yes, we deliver great service. Yes, we have great credentials and expertise, but why are we really different? Especially for that high-end tier of buyer that everyone's increasingly going towards. So Dawn, just from, again, more of a tactical approach, when you see people that are involving cost seg services into their firm's brand, into their selling propositions, do you notice any differences between those who do and those who do not?
It's the forward-thinking mentality. It's the planning. It's the piece that all clients want, whether they have a small CPA and they're paying them $400 or whether they are paying a lot for their CPA. They want that CPA to bring ideas to the table and those forward-thinking planning opportunities that they don't know about. The TurboTax is not giving them. That's the differentiator for any type of professional CPA.
Perfectly stated. Exactly. And this is again a tangible example. A lot of people say, "Oh yeah, we'll look forward," but clients sometimes they need a little bit more. They need a little bit of, well, how? And now we're saying, well, yeah, we can have maybe a tax planning software. Cool, right? This can be a great tool, but now we also have a strategic partner who can do this at an incredibly high level. And I'll just ask the people on the Zoom call as well as hanging out on the Facebook Live here. Have any of you potentially tried to move into cost seg and struggled, or maybe tried to have a referral partner in it and maybe it didn't meet expectations? And if you have a story or an experience like that, we'd love for you to share it in the comments section down below, because we're going to talk a little bit later on about what Dawn's experiences are like and how she ultimately doesn't let those things necessarily happen with the way some other firms let things happen. There's a big differentiator here. But let's move forward a little bit further here, because I indicated in the opener that you had some unbelievable personal records for sales. And while we were chatting before we started, the original personal record that I was aware of got beaten again. So let's talk a little bit about sales, and let's talk a little bit about those numbers, if you wouldn't mind, because I think people hear this, they go, well, what kind of numbers are we talking about?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, cost segregation studies are not inexpensive because they are time consuming to do. So I have sold, and I'm ecstatic about this because, it ebbs and flows, obviously, marketing and sales and the whole gamut, over $150,000 year to date. And I just started in January. So I'm middle of August, I'm 7.5 months in. I really couldn't be more thrilled. I really had a much lower goal for myself for the year, knowing I could hopefully achieve that.
Well, we're going to need to set some new goals, because that's incredible. Congratulations. I mean, that's something worth blushing over. So that's amazing, Dawn. But let's think about this from, again, the accountant's perspective, the individuals who are coming to you and saying, hey, I have a client who clearly would benefit from the cost seg. Maybe we've done some advisory on the front end. We've identified this as an area of opportunity. Mm-hmm. So walk me through that experience. I say, hey, Dawn, I'd like to move this client into this wheelhouse of yours. Give me a little bit of kind of the behind the scenes look. Like, what would that first experience look and feel like? And then what's the typical time to delivery? Again, I want people to understand what this feels like.
So, I mean, it's pretty much an open, as far as, so backing up a little bit, one of the things that I hear from other cost seg or people who've used other cost seg providers is it's kind of hard to kind of get their attention. I always answer the phone. I have so many clients that tell me, I just love to call you because you answer the phone, get back to people. So what I like to do is be a resource. So if you're a CPA, you have a client, I'm happy to answer all your questions. I'm a appreciation encyclopedia, essentially. I know all the rules. I can tell you how to treat things, what your options are. And then we can work out really what's best for your client. And then going forward, what we do is we give an estimate of the benefit. So that doesn't cost anything. Your client knows whether they want to move forward with this. You've got some hard numbers to work with in your planning. It takes us about 4 to 6 weeks to actually do the study. The way we price out the study too can be variable. We can do it with affiliate marketing pieces in there, so that you have, there's a lot of benefit that you as a CPA bring, and giving the planning opportunity and working with your client and just thinking about this opportunity in general for them is huge. So you definitely want to gain in that revenue, and you don't have to add any staff because we're doing all the heavy lifting. So we can work it out. There are CPAs who don't want to do that route. We're really pretty malleable because really it's your client, your relationship. We just really want to help you out, but you do have to plan. So the 4 to 6 weeks is something you have to definitely think about and back up from any filing deadline.
That's awesome. And part of the reason this is awesome is let's make sure that we didn't lose sight of the first thing she said, which is Dawn's a resource. So if you're not sure if this is a good fit, you got to talk through some things, like be sure to lean on her expertise. This is the definition of relationship building and strategic alliances, which is saying, hey, even if I'm not getting paid right now, we can work something out in the future. I want to make sure this is a good fit for you and your client first, and that we can clear up anything that would prevent that from being the case, right? We're not losing anything in the process. You're gaining expertise on your side by being willing to engage with someone like Dawn. The next part of this is that there are variables that come into consideration here. And I think a lot of people, I would be wondering this. I know if I was on the other side, I have a better understanding because we've talked about this. But when you're getting ready to consider what some of these variables are, let's actually think of it from this perspective, Dawn. What would be a clear-cut sign from someone that's, we say, well, they're invested in real estate. Well, we could maybe be talking about the guy who has, one duplex. And maybe not cost seg is the right fit. So we could say, hey, that's not the best fit. What is a clear-cut sign that, no, this isn't necessarily something that would be beneficial for your client? And then what's a clear-cut sign that this would be beneficial for your client?
Well, I mean, if they're in a loss position, it's not necessarily going to behoove them right now. If they are going to sell the building, if they buy a developer, for example, that builds it, they may fund it, and then they sell it, they are not a good candidate for cost seg. The main key, the number one key is they need to hold the building at least 3 years for cost seg to really pay for itself. And then secondly is if they're in a loss, you want to keep it in your back pocket and maybe utilize it later.
Got it. So if we've got a down market or we've got a toxic asset, not quite the right term, but I think we know what we mean. We have something that's not ready to be cash flow positive on the overall investment, then we say, let's wait to do this.
Yes.
Similarly, if we have someone who is in more of that create and flip, buy and flip mentality, cost seg is not going to benefit them.
No.
So we're looking for people, imagine this, we're looking for people with long-term visions for their real estate that have made sound investments, and then this will benefit them.
Exactly.
Okay.
Any long-term hold. I mean, even smaller properties, cost segregation tends to be a little bit too expensive for an Airbnb, residential rental, just because your basis is so low. Mm-hmm. We also have a new solution for them too, where it brings the cost down. So they're really any type of real estate, if you're holding it, can benefit.
Okay. And we got an understanding of things that are too small, but in terms of, again, that cost basis, are we talking about properties that are $500,000, million, 2.5, 10 million? What's normally the threshold you like to?
$1 million is really what I say, $1 million. And that's exclusive of land value. So if you've got, if you come to me with a property in Miami that is $1 million, and then I look at the property card and I say, Miami's saying 900,000, that's land. So 100,000 of it is that warehouse. That's probably not going to be a good fit either. So you've got to be $1 million exclusive of land. If you're doing tenant improvements or something, it can be a little bit less, but that's our line.
Got it. Okay. So $1 million excluding property value, in other words, just the building value itself, is typically a good landmark for someone to say, if I'm going to give Dawn a call, I should make sure that this particular thing is true.
For sure. Yeah.
Fantastic. Another question that I would imagine most people have about this, Dawn, is what if they say, well, Dawn, you're in Florida, right?
North Carolina.
North Carolina. I'm sorry. My mistake. You mentioned Miami, so I started thinking Florida. So if I'm saying, well, I'm in Montana or I'm in Nebraska or I'm in wherever, how does the state rules, regulations, does it matter when I contact you? What's that look like?
So honestly, so one of my hats, I was a state and local income and franchise tax specialist for many years. So, many states decouple from bonus depreciation. So you do have to consider that if you're thinking about state rules. But for cost segregation itself, when you're taking an asset and taking it from a real property bucket to a personal property bucket or a land improvement bucket, all of the states follow those rules. There is no decoupling of that. They all piggyback off of the federal depreciation for rules as far as how you actually categorize your property.
Fantastic. Let's talk a little bit more about the money piece here, because we say, okay, we did $150,000 in sales. I'm thinking to myself, well, how many cost seg studies may we have done? And I know there's a variable here, and I'm not trying to get too into the specifics, but we mentioned this idea earlier of adding this as almost a hands-off approach to being able to add more value to your firm while also getting paid for it. So if I'm getting ready to say, hey, I identified a great opportunity. Okay, this client has a building that's worth 1.5 million, excluding land. It's a good asset. They're holding it for a while. We'd like to ultimately do a cost seg and bring that cash forward a little bit here with all the special rules that you mentioned earlier. Okay. I get ready to talk with Dawn again, just in loose terms here. I know we can have differences in terms of specificities for which situation comes up. But what are we talking about in terms of cost for the client? And what are we talking about in terms of income for the referral partner who has the relationship with the client, obviously the accountant themselves?
Well, what we would do is I would say just ballpark figure. We would say that would cost $8,000 to do, but I would suggest you go out to the client at 10. So there's a $2,000 for the CPA to keep. So we try to keep a pretty big chunk. And when I say that, when we price it out as a whole, you want the ROI to go out to the client at a certain amount. It has to work for the client. So, there's a little bit of pricing component, but I would say generally try to make sure there's at least $2,000 for the CPA to keep for each study.
Okay. So essentially we can get a 2K payday, deliver a fantastic result to our client. And you brought up another amazing point here, which is the return or the result for the client when we're getting ready to bring this together. So if I'm the client, right, and all of a sudden, and maybe this is before we even get to this part, am I selling the 10K to the client, Dawn, or is this something I'm expecting you to do, or are we doing it together?
We're doing it together, so you can choose. So there's really any way you want to do it. If you want to go out with your firm letterhead and you could give it an EL to the client for the 10K, then I could give you an EL for the 8K. Boom, you got your delta. If you want to do that and you want to brand your own materials, I can even give you marketing materials with your name on it that are branded already for cost egg to help you sell and sit down at the table and show the benefit to your client. If you would rather not do any of that and you just want me to go straight to the client with the 10K and then cut you a check for the 2K, we can do that too. It really is easy for us. We have all these options set up. So it's what works best for you and how you service your client best. These are just the semantics behind the scene.
Okay. So in other words, we've got flexibility on how this is sold to make sure that it's a good fit for the firm. And then we also make sure that no matter how we're selling it, that we're carving out essentially a portion of this to make sure that the accountant is rewarded for bringing this business in. And then on top of that, the client is now getting a tremendous result. Let's talk about that piece, right? So the sales side, pretty straightforward. We've got flexibility. We can do it together independently, whatever the case may be. When we're getting ready to present this to the client, you mentioned some marketing materials. Potentially, we do some pre-selling, or we do a little bit of a plan ahead of time to then get ready to actually do the cost segregation study. Mm-hmm. What are the typical, like if I'm getting ready to invest that 10K, right? As the owner of the plant or whatever we want to call it, right?
Okay.
What am I typically going to be expecting back in terms of a return for this acceleration, right? What is that looking like typically? Again, let's use the $1.5 million property value, and again, these are ballpark figures, but I just want people to, again, start to wrap their mind around like, what is the tangible benefit to the client?
Right.
How would we represent that?
Okay. So essentially, once your study is done, you will have, we'll give it to your accountant, to your breakout. You will see on a $1.5 million, $300,000 to $400,000 of extra depreciation expense in year one. So you multiply that times your tax rate, your Fed state. You're talking, could reduce your tax liability by 100 to 150,000. I mean, I've reduced tax liabilities of $1 million all in year one. So it just depends on how much tax you're paying. If you can't use it all in year one, it'll move to year two. So if you've got income coming off your investments, your business is doing well, you got your accountant obviously will help determine the passive active rules, but you have other buildings that are shooting off income. Even if this one's a loss, you can use that if they're both passive. It's in that same bucket. There's a lot to the planning, which is why I call myself really a tax planner with this stuff, because the planning is the key, and you really need to help people understand how to use it, when best to use it. It is simply a tool.
And this is that's very illuminating, right? I mean, we talk low end 6 figures, maybe a little bit below that, high end 7 figures. That's a tremendous tool. And you mentioned, of course, tax planning. And as far as I'm typically concerned with my clients, we got the end of Q3 pretty much right around the corner, about halfway through it. And then we get into Q4, and then everybody starts to wake up and they go, we're making too much money, right? And they go, what are we supposed to do with all this money?
Yeah.
I don't want to pay all this in taxes. And here we have a very viable tool that can be in the toolkit to make sure that when your clients are coming to you, as they will be, they're going to all of a sudden say, we can do what? And it only costs how much to save how much? That's what we need to be connecting the dots on. So thank you for providing that example, Dawn. Again, I think it gives it a lot of tangibility for our audience and for people who are getting ready to get rolling into tax planning. If you don't have this tool in your toolkit, you certainly should consider adding it because there's no cost to add it.
Exactly. It's easy. It's a plug and play model.
Perfectly stated. So, look, we've been talking a lot about Dawn and her awesome opportunity. I'd like to change gears just a tiny bit here. And of course, if you have questions for Dawn, please drop them into the chat. We're going to get to Q&A in about 20 minutes from here, about 10 minutes. We've got a hard stop at the top of the hour. We could be talking all day about this because it's so awesome. But let's go ahead and just change gears a little bit here, because one of the other things that's cool about my relationship with Dawn is, of course, she's a client of Dream Firms. And I'd like us to just show a little bit about what that relationship's all about and what some of the tangible results have been from the relationship she's had with Dream Firms. So Dawn, let's get to the back in time a little bit here and discuss what your life was like before working with Dream Firms. What were some of the things that you felt were particularly struggles or hurdles you were dealing with at that time?
Well, I fortunate enough to meet you and fall into your lap right when I was setting up my business. So some of the hurdles, like I didn't even know they existed yet. I knew that I wanted to set up my own business and I wanted to go out on my own. How exactly I was going to do that was going to be a step-by-step process. So when I found you, I thought, and one of the greatest things I love about your program is it allows me to go step by step. And you spell it out. Here's how you need to set things up. And a lot of people are in your class that your group that have been in business and they've done it another way. And I thought, this is awesome for me because I can just set things up the tried and true and proven method from the beginning and not have to go back and change things. So you definitely illuminated me to a lot of things that I didn't even know was going to be a problem for myself going forward. So I in many ways, I lucked out.
It's fantastic. And again, I like to think of it as we don't need to reinvent the wheel. A lot of people have tried a lot of different things and wasted a lot of time and money to get there, but success leaves clues. And part of the success you can see are success like Dawn's, 150,000, crushing her own personal sales goal. We're not even halfway through Q3 right now. That's what we can do is we can dramatically accelerate people to the point where the goals you thought you had, well, all of a sudden we need new ones and new things to strive for, which is amazing. Yep. Again, that's fantastic. So let's go ahead and just talk about another thing here, which is the actual process of getting started. We did a good job of talking about, hey, look, Dawn's going to be this tremendous resource for you where you can ultimately ping her, contact her, make sure it's a good fit. But when you get involved with Dream Firms, I think a lot of people go, well, we ask for an investment to make sure that you come in. But when you come in, what is that experience like? Like, what was getting started working with Dream Firms like for you, Dawn?
Well, beyond being very eye-opening, it was, the main thing for me is the path. You tell us start here, you watch these videos, you can do it on your own pace, you can sit on that topic as long as you need to master that. So it's not going too fast, it's at your own pace, you've got the resource and you're answering the questions. So there's an accountability element though to it, which is huge. It is just human nature to procrastinate. So you've built in the accountability piece as well as the self-pacing piece. All of those things are huge.
I want to maybe pick up on one thread that is great for everyone to be aware of on this call if they want to potentially learn a little bit more. Um, you put together something amazing in terms of a resource.
Mhm.
And a lot of people, they think of creating this resource, right? And this resource is a webinar where we can really get our primary value proposition out there, where we can educate people. We can have this appreciation for content, and we can do it in the right way. Now, this was a big initiative for you, and you crushed it. You absolutely crushed it. So what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about that process, why you decided to create a webinar, and what you felt the value was that Dream Firms helped to add to that process and ultimately make it something that's a worthwhile marketing and sales tool for your endeavors.
Well, we decided to do the webinar because when you are selling an advisory service, it's a little bit different than just going out with a Google ad or on Facebook. There's a lot of information. What I find is when I'm talking to clients, I need to sort of give them information on a little bit of a complicated topic if they're not already familiar with it in a short period of time, get their attention. So I really just needed more forward-facing time with people. So working with Tyler, Tyler came up with the idea of, going out on CPA Academy, because you've got a large base of people, CPA firms. So we created a webinar on CPA Academy that was basically saying what I've said to you today, that you can do the partnership model. This is not necessarily going directly to the client. Tyler opened my eyes to the one-to-one marketing, which is what I had been doing, networking, going to happy hours, things like that with networking groups, or the one-to-many. And the one-to-many obviously makes more sense when somebody spells it out. You're like, yeah, I want to go to many instead of one-to-one. But one-to-many really is what we have found, is that working with CPAs and their clients just allows us to network and spiderweb a lot more. So that is what the CPA Academy, and yeah, we put it together pretty quickly. They have an incredible base of CPAs, and so we've had really high attendance for everyone that we've done. Has been pretty amazing. And Tyler, going back to the accountability, he told me, you book it and then you make it, and then you make sure you do it on time, because that's the only way I know you're going to do it. And yeah, it was a little stressful. Yeah, I put it together in 2 weeks, but he pushed me to make that happen.
Well, and I think what I imagine a lot of people are thinking right now is they go, but I don't sell to CPAs. I'm not looking to build those strategic alliances. I say, well, maybe you are. There can be a lot of opportunities inside of your existing network of similar and like-minded professionals that some people are not quite aware of as they should be. But the lesson that Dawn shared with you still holds true, is that somewhere there are audiences of the people you would like to be working with that are congregating. Advisory, while you and me, we may know exactly what we're talking about, I can tell you that the average small to medium-sized successful business owner, they don't know necessarily what that means. And that means there's a large educational piece that we have to have in order for them to truly grasp what the heck you're talking about. It's got to be explained in a way that's easy to understand and shows the value, right? Like I'm a big fan of, like, value is wonderful. Okay. Value is a fun way to say results. Okay. But they oftentimes don't understand what those results are unless we take the time to explain them in a meaningful way. And if you try and explain that one to one to one to one to one, it's no wonder why growth takes decades to be able to get where you want. It's no wonder why referrals tend to do a better job of explaining, because they go, I just saved a whole bunch of money. Go talk, right? Go talk to Dawn, or go talk to whoever they're working with. So again, while that sounds nuanced to potentially my market, what I do, obviously we run CPA Academy webinars, what Dawn does, the lesson is still true. The audiences exist. Educational content helps to express complicated topics, and advisory, whether you think so or not, it is a complicated topic that requires educational. I want to just loop in a very quick thing that I kind of glossed over, that my man Dan Henn, Dream Firm Leader, indicated in the chat here real fast. You mentioned something that I think is super cool, which is you mentioned these marketing materials that you can give to your strategic partners that are getting ready to roll out some cost segs as part of their tax planning. What is it? What did you mean by that? What is that? How do I get those if I wanted that, Dawn?
It's pretty easy. Dan, I did see your question. All you really have to do is say you're interested in that and send me your logos. So I have been working on this. I mean, thanks to Tyler, and just going back to something, that you said, Tyler. I mean, when you're looking at different audiences, one of the great thing about you is that you will work with me and look at what my market is and tell me what I need to do for my market. Another one of your clients, you're going to look at them and say what they need to do for their market. So I have been working with the tools that you gave me because I wanted an easy way to build marketing materials and then rebrand them with different logos, switch out the colors. And you introducing me to Canva, it actually took me a little while. I'll tell you a big secret. I'll tell you guys all the secret. That Canva just it's in beta. You can upload an existing PDF. So if you have paid a marketing firm to create marketing materials for you, and now you want to rebrand them, all you have to do is go into Canva, upload that existing PDF, and it makes it now an editable format. I was stuck on that because I was like, I just want to switch out the header. I can do it very quickly. And I have a whole set of marketing materials now for CostSeg, because really, if you partner with us, you essentially are going to be the one sitting down and providing and explaining the value to the client. You need the marketing materials in hand, and there is absolutely no reason why you should recreate them when I have them.
It's perfectly stated, which is there are fantastic tools out there that have unbelievable power that are ridiculously cheap, if not free in many instances, that you can take existing things, again, to Dawn's point about the program, to Dawn's point about her marketing materials. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, and you can get all the benefit associated with it. You can shine with your client by being able to bring these types of things. Educational content is not just webinars. It's not just interviews. It's a wide-ranging set of subjects and different mediums. Some clients might love to see you interview someone that you did a successful tax plan and cost seg thing for. I'm still waiting for an accounting professional to start to do that. And we're going to have a client do it very soon. I can guarantee that, because I'm like, all right, you guys got to start to do this, because it's really fun and it's really engaging. And it's a great way to show the tangible benefit while continuously educating your audience. And similarly, PDFs, webinars, all sorts of ways to be able to get things off your hands and into the market as efficiently as possible. Fantastic. And I can just, again, I don't know if I just want to reiterate this. If you heard what I just said, there's no reason to not contact Dawn and get your hands on these materials, because as soon as you get them into the client's hands, they're going to be impressed, because that's what you don't just sell $150,000 worth of cost segs without impressing clients about what cost seg's about. I can guarantee you those marketing materials are helping. And now you're making money like that. And you're increasing the odds that you're selling tax plans where you're making more money than the affiliate side, but you're making more money combined when you're doing both of them. Tremendous opportunity right now. Don't miss out on it. Okay, cool. So let's continue talking through a little bit about dream firms here. What do you enjoy most about working with us, Dawn? We talked about accountability. We talked step by step, but really when you reflect on all the different facets of the Create Your Dream Firm program, what is it that really speaks to you the most?
Well, mainly having a partner in my plan. So I will say one of the things I love about you is when we meet and I say, here's my plan, you always come back and say, you need to change it. You need to tweak it. So you're completely honest with me. And I know that you're using all the information that you're looking at my plan and you're telling me where the holes are. That's what I want. And that is, you routinely deliver that. And I can never guess what my holes are going to be beforehand. I don't have that knowledge. That's the number one thing that I love.
I really appreciate you saying that, Dawn. Thank you. And look, I take that responsibility seriously. There's nothing worse than being like gung-ho about a plan and then implementing it and wondering why it didn't work. And then all of a sudden we can just take a look at it and say, well, on the front end, this would have been obvious, right? This would have been clear from my perspective, because sometimes as an entrepreneur, right, we're in our bubble up here.
for sure.
And when you get that third-party perspective that has a wealth of information to help inform your plan, again, you can save a lot of time, a lot of frustration by just saying, this is a much better, it's not going to be perfect every time. Nothing ever is, but we can get much closer to hitting the mark than we otherwise could. Fantastic. I appreciate that. So we already talked about, you've already done $150,000 in sales in since August. Since August. Not yet. That's next year. So how much did you add to your firm, and again, in what time frame, Dawn? If you could just summarize that for us.
Well, since I started the ground zero, that has been all added to my firm. I mean, I joined your group really before I even set up my entity, so it was ground zero. I mean, I can't tell you, you say it all the time, time is your most valuable asset. I have saved myself so much time and heartache by just working with you from the get-go, setting things up from the beginning the right way. Or, I mean, maybe you can't say the right way, who knows, you can't take two paths, but much, 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 much better than if I had just floundered around for a year and then had no revenue and then joined your firm. So all of that has been attributable to after I joined your group.
Well, thank you so much for saying that, Dawn. And for those that are, out there on the fence, you got a couple people echoing some praise in the chat. You guys are awesome. Let's just put it simply. What would you say to the people who haven't had a chance to experience the inside of working with dream firms and with me directly? What would you say to those people right now, Dawn?
I would say that they should move forward, because I don't think they'll regret it. I think that there is so much information. I mean, we haven't even talked about the tech stack, which is huge, 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 huge. And that is really like one of everybody's favorite parts. Just the tech stack right there. I would say that, the investment working with you has paid for itself many times over. And you have, a couple of different options. You do that first option, the 8-week program. There is so much meat in that 8-week program. I mean, I think you could charge triple for that. So if people are on the fence, I think they go ahead and do the Nestea plunge for the 8-week program, and they will get that feel and they will understand everything that we're talking about.
Just so you know, if I triple my prices, you guys can go ahead and blame Dawn. Okay. You can say, Dawn, it's your fault that Tyler No, I'm not going to do that yet. Maybe. No, I'm not going to do that. But look, that to me is, I read something interesting the other day, and I think that it's worth sharing with our audience at large here. I talk a lot about the importance of goodwill as well, right? We talk about times, your important asset, but goodwill is generating reviews, right? It's being able to take the things that you do that have been maybe unpaid, right? A lot of people say, I'm not getting paid my true value. I'm not necessarily charging for everything that I'm doing. That's a very common thing that we hear in the accounting profession, but that is building goodwill. Goodwill is all the things that you do that aren't necessarily paid for. Now, there's of course a happy middle ground between doing a lot of things and not getting paid for them when we're delivering tremendous value. But also, what are the things that we can be offering, can be adding, can be making sure are a part of what we deliver to our clients? Those bonuses, those marketing materials that come branded, right? Dawn's not charging you for that. That's goodwill, ladies and gentlemen. That's amazing to be able to do, right? And there's so many good examples that we talk about as part of the program, like how do you build goodwill? But it's not really costing you anything, but it is ultimately something that has tangible, real value to both you and your clients. Fantastic. This question's a little different, but what has surprised you the most when it came to growing your business here, Dawn?
Honestly, how much time it takes. I mean, I think that, when I love public accounting, the time commitment in public accounting is huge. And it's funny, my husband's like, you're working more now. And so, but my goal is different and I'm excited to do it. But I mean, each thing, and that is where we get back to the importance of time, the importance of doing it right, and making those strategic partnerships in the first place, because every step of the way when you're building your own business as well as marketing is time consuming if you want to do it right. And I know we're all type A personalities, so we do. And so you could just not sleep and then keep going, but it's exciting to do it. That's been the biggest thing.
It's an astute point, which is a lot of people think, hey, I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to have all this time for myself and be my own boss. But look, growth requires a commitment of time and or money. And when you're in Dawn's phase, startup, essentially, there's going to be a lot of things that you have to put in place that just simply are not there yet. And there's no substitute for hours into your business right now. Now that will change, right? Like that's the goal, is as you get more systems operational, and everyone knows I bow to the altar of systems every day, because that's what allows us to get better results more consistently with less time required. And Dawn's got a lot of those in place now. And so while she could choose to continue to work the same amount of hours, the truth is we could work a little less and continue to perpetuate a similar level of results. But for those like Dawn, right, type A, go, accelerate, sometimes it's not really an option. And we can work on that. But again, I agree. Sometimes it is surprising the time it takes, but that is oftentimes, more often than not, coupled directly with results, as long as you're investing your time into the right things. That's and right. You clearly are. I mean, 6 figures in sales and in less than 3 full quarters is again, incredible, especially from startup. That's crazy. So I guess that means, Dawn, does that make you a Dream Firm Award winner? I mean, I was going to ask you, is that news to you? Is it news to me?
It was news to me. I was like, yeah, I think so. I'm done. I'm there.
Wow, that's fantastic. For those unfamiliar, a Dream Firm Award is adding at least 6 figures to your firm of new business growth within 365 days. So congratulations, Dawn. Welcome to the Dream Firm Award winner circle. Well, I'm sure you'll be a repeat winner year over year if you did it as easily as you. We might need to invent a new award for you if you keep accelerating the way you are. That's fantastic. Way to go. That's incredible accomplishment. Bravo. So last thing here, and then we're going to get to Q&A. So if you guys have questions you'd like to drop into the chat, specific for myself or for Dawn, please make sure you get them in there. We're going to be going rapid fire through them. I can already see a couple piling in right now. Dawn, last question before we get to Q&A. Who would you recommend the Create Your Dream Firm program to?
Well, I would recommend it to anybody who's a little bit on the peripheral. I mean, you obviously market and everybody knows that you help accountants grow their firms, you know, your traditional audit, tax, your traditional accounting firms. But we also know that the world is changing out there, and a lot of that stuff is becoming commoditized. And advisory, big firms are moving a lot of their resources to advisory. Anybody who's servicing those same clients from an accounting perspective, this peripheral, you know, if you're doing R&D studies, if you're doing CFO services, you are also a great resource for them. This is the same space. We're working together. So that's who I would recommend also think about using your services.
I appreciate you saying that, Dawn, because I have, I'll have people who come to me, bookkeepers, for instance, and they'll go, do you work with bookkeepers? And I go, is my messaging off so badly that when I say accounting that it doesn't include bookkeeping? Or I'll have tax people come to me and say, do you work with tax? And I go, is accounting not a function of tax or tax not a function of accounting, and vice versa? Like, again, to me, it's like, this is a wide field, and you're right. And we do have a lot of specificity, but there are different players in different spaces. And part of what I consider our responsibility in Dream Firms, and also inside of Dream Firms Network, our private little client coaching community that we have there, is I consider our responsibility is making sure that we're connecting the pieces together. Bookkeepers need someone who can do advisory. Advisory people need people who can do bookkeeping. They need people who can do tax. I want everyone to be in their zone of genius, but I want to make sure that their clients are getting the highest level of service that they can. And everybody is profiting from these types of arrangements. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate you saying that, Dawn. You got R&D tax credit specialists. You got all sorts of people out there, but we all need each other at the end of the day. And I'd like to help you guys to connect the dots.
Yeah.
With that being said, we got 10 minutes. We're going to jump into Q&A. We see a lot of people. Congratulations for Dawn on the Dream Firms Award. So let's go ahead, and I got a question from Albert. Albert says, when I bring up the idea of cost seg to my clients, all they hear is cost and lose interest. What do you do to overcome this, Dawn?
Well, it's funny that you say that, Albert, because that is one of the first things that Tyler said. He said, that's a horrible name, cost segregation, because it puts cost. So I wish I could change the industry. So we actually batted around new names for it. It does cost money, but you're looking at the basis of the property. That's the cost, your investment basis, and segregating it into different tax lives. There is a cost associated with it. That's why the ROI, you have to look at the ROI, and the ROI, really helps them. And, there's so many situations where the client will see immediately, yes, this is gonna, I want my money today. Is it worth me spending this amount to get that? And the client will tell you whether they think that's worth it to them or not.
Yeah, I distinctly remember that conversation. I was like, man, there's got to be another way to say cost segregation study. Can we lead with another word?
I know we investment segregation, but it's been around for 20 plus years, and we're not going to change, the whole world there.
And Albert, it's a great question, and I'll just throw in my 2 cents here. Is that typically speaking, most people don't care a whole lot about the how, right? I mean, the how is important, and the how is cost seg. But if we're digging enough into why are we doing this, what is your goal? Right. And typically most people are coming to us to lower taxes, increase overall cash flow, even manipulate the tax code in their favor. Some people getting up in arms when you use that terminology, but it's just essentially saying, what are the tools available to you? And once we start to, again, zero in on the benefits, the return of the investment into a segregation study, notice I didn't even use the word cost there. But once we do that, all of a sudden, the rest of that doesn't seem to matter as much when we get them really zeroed in on the end result. So that would be my advice to you, Albert, is do your best to avoid the tactical approach. Stay up in the strategy, because that's ultimately what an advisor is meant to do. They don't necessarily care too much about those details, and maybe bring in an expert like Dawn to help ultimately sell that value on your behalf. That's usually a great approach. And maybe those marketing materials from Dawn would help too. Carrie has a question. Yeah, I have had pretty bad experiences outsourcing cost seg to other firms. Clients were not pleased. How is this any different? Ooh, so Carrie getting right to the heart of it.
Yeah. And I've heard all these things. There are different reasons why different CPAs don't want to tout and to support cost seg for their clients. And this is one of them. So what I find in general is other cost seg providers, they might have a person that you're working with that does not understand tax, does not understand your client, that is basically just in sales. Cost segregation, as you know, is made up really of accountants, CPAs working with engineers and people who have building knowledge. The two don't really intertwine. The engineers don't understand the CPA in the tax world, and the CPAs don't really understand what the engineer. I do not know how to read blueprints, I'll tell you that, and I don't want to learn because it looks a little complicated. But so when you get somebody who's selling and you're working with them that doesn't understand your world and what you're doing, they drop the ball a lot. They assume that you know certain things that you may not. And then secondly, and you hear this in any industry, it's not specific to cost seg, is just the client service is lacking. I have many clients that love me now because their prior cost seg provider wouldn't answer their emails, wouldn't answer the phone, wouldn't get back to them. Some of it is they didn't know the answers to those questions because they might have been tax questions. Some of it is they were just too busy. They're in their own world. They're prioritizing their workload. So this is not really indicative of the cost seg market itself, but just the provider that you're using.
Perfectly stated. How many people have come to these various accounting firm leaders here and said, I had a really bad experience with a bad accounting firm, right? That is not indicative of the next experience you're going to have. And I believe with every fiber of my being that what Dawn showed you over these last 50 plus minutes here is a incredible combination of personalized experience and a depth of knowledge in both accounting, tax, as well as cost seg itself. So I think you could wash that bad taste from your mouth pretty easily here, Carrie, and make sure that you continue to have cost seg delivered in a high quality way to your clients. Josephine says, wow, I know a client who would benefit from this. What's the best way to connect with you, Dawn? If you want to maybe drop something into the chat or just, again, announce it also on for people who might be catching the recording later on.
I will drop my email into the chat, and then you guys feel free to email me, and we can set up a time to talk to. Let me see, I've got my computer high here. I got to figure out where the @ sign is. This got my little setup going on. Let me do that, and then I'm happy to meet. I love to do virtual meetings and get to know people. We can set up a virtual meeting. That'll be awesome.
Absolutely. And what would, just for, we'll drop it in the comment section on YouTube, but what would be the email address?
The email, Dawn at CREtaxplanning.com, which is commercial real estate. CRE
simple enough to remember. Dawn at CREtaxplanning.com. Anyone that wants to reach out to Dawn, again, I see no reason in the world why you wouldn't do that. Francis says, I saw your webinar on CPA Academy. Can confirm it's killer. Thanks for the interview, Tyler. Our pleasure, Francis. And if you want to check out Dawn's thing, go to CPA Academy. Just type in Dawn Polin. You'll find it very quickly. Even the replay is worth it, even if you don't get the CPEs for it. Ian, I am moving more into tax planning and thinks this fits well into that. Do you typically sell a cost seg when selling a tax plan? Ian, I would look at this as you certainly could bundle them. I might look at this more as a two-step sales process where you want to make sure that they understand what's included in the tax plan and then the additional implementation costs of that tax plan. That's probably the way I'd treat it. I think by rolling in too many things into the plan itself, first of all, the price gets pushed up pretty significantly, which means there's going to be you need to have a really powerful selling proposition. I think if you take a two-step sales process on this, you're ultimately going to have a significantly higher level of success. As long as it's very clear on the front end, additional investments will be required for successful implementation of the plan. And one of those more than likely will be cost seg. And here's a ballpark of what you'd expect for cost seg, as well as what the associated savings would be with a cost segregation study. Anything you'd add to that, Dawn?
Yeah, just that communication is key. I mean, really, with all of these things, communicating with that client when you do the plan, you know, we've got this plan, we've got these ideas, there may be additional cost, or there will be additional cost depending on what you're looking at. Communicating with your client is the number one thing that is hard because it takes time, but it's key to all of these things.
Absolutely. I'm going to go rapid fire here because I just looked at the time. We've got 2 minutes left. We've got like 5 questions left. Jen, this is awesome, but I don't think I have any clients that need cost seg. How would you easily tell if it's a good idea for a client? Again, I would say 1.1 million and above in terms of the property value independent of land value is a good way to understand if that's good, and as well as if it has as is not considered a negative asset, it's got value to it. Damien, what's the process like to get a cost seg up and running? How much money can I make from offering it to a client? Again, Dawn addressed this earlier, but essentially you're looking at about a 2K profit to you at the end of the day when all things are said and done. Damien, again, you can review that answer earlier on when this gets out onto YouTube. Barry, very interesting. I've been doing cost segs and charging very little for them. They can be a beast. Seems like I make more money with less by going this route. We'll explore. Thank you. Barry, again, in the chat, Dawn at CREtaxplanning.com. That will get you connected directly to Dawn. Jen, awesome. Booking a call now with Dawn. And what's the link to book one with you, Tyler? Jen, I'm sorry. How can I be so silly? Dreamfirms.com/now. That will get you everything you need to be able to understand what we've got going on with the Create Your Dream Firm program. That is in the chat, or it'll be in the comment section or in the description section on YouTube. Oliver, wow, my niche is real estate and I don't have a strategic partner for this service yet. A light bulb has gone off. Oliver, not surprised to hear that. We tend to have that reaction quite a lot. Michael, book my call. It's time to get off the fence and build my dream firm. Not sure if that's with Dawn or with me, but we're going to help you one way or the other with that. Avery, awesome interview. Thank you for these insights, Dawn and Tyler. And then we've got a few other ones all congratulating Dawn for the tremendous success with winning the Dream Firms Award. So Dawn, any parting shots before we say goodbye here?
Nope, that's it. I did just drop a link to my QD scheduler there if anybody wants to grab it, and they can just schedule a call directly or email me, and I'll be happy to schedule a call that way, getting my link. But thank you so much for the interview today, Tyler. This was a lot of fun, and I appreciate everybody attending.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you for the time. And again, we'll do this potentially again sometime soon. If you want to hang out with Dawn and all the other Create Your Dream Firm program members, Dream Firm Award winner, 6 figures in less than a year, like amazing results. Do me a favor. There's a link in the chat, book a call, speak directly with me, learn about what we have going on. And just one last thing for you guys, never to forget, remember, only you can create your dream firm, but we, including Dawn, help you every single step of the way. Have a fantastic rest of your work week. And I'll look forward to seeing you hopefully on the inside of Dream Firms Network very, very soon.
Thanks, Tyler.